Hey, there we go. It's Thursday, sometime in March, and we get to news stories about interesting things today. Camp list, as soon as you bring stuff in, can cross your name off of the list. That was our last grammar quiz. It will still be on quizzes, but it's only going to be like the last 2 questions. But as far as a full grammar quiz, we did well enough yesterday across all of my classes. I had easily 90% of the kids in each class get the 27 or higher. So because of that, I figure I can argue that we know grammar and we're good. I will still put it on quizzes. Just in theory, there should be easy questions now because you have proven that you know grammar. Most of you have proven that you know grammar. And so with that one, as far as the IXL goes, since I had kids ask about doing it for extra credit or extra B points, the answer is, yeah, here's what you can do if you want. If you just want to take picture of quiz and submit it, that is fine if you got the 27 or higher. If you would also want to do the IXL, you can, and then you can get extra credit or extra B points. And that is up to you on that one. If you go to 80, it's 3, 90 is 4. If you go all the way to 100, it's going to get you the 5. And you have to submit both pictures of the IXL and of your quiz. And then I will be giving you extra credits unless you tell me in the comments when you submit it that you want B points, then I can turn it into B points instead. But that is completely up to you, optional wise. Sticks.
How many people got 32 out of 32 in this class?
Right, and Madison.
Can I go to the bathroom?
Sure, go for it. Elena.
Can I upload the pictures now?
Sure, be quick. Then we have that part of it, and Yeezys, and Yeezys. All right. With tomorrow, I will give you a little idea of what's going to happen as far as the assessment, but it is due at end of class. You do not have extra time. So if it bell rings at end of class, you have to submit what you have, which is why I keep saying you don't have time to read all 3 articles and write the essay tomorrow. So I'm just giving you a heads up. With it, what you're going to be doing to give you a rough idea, with the 3 articles, because I've had kids emailing me say, can I read just one of the 3? And the answer is yes, and then you fail. Because what you have to do is use this article, the one that says how to live with integrity, and it's going to give you different things about integrity. You're going to use this article to explain what happened in this article about the kid and the baseball player. Then you're going to use part of this article to explain what happens with the homeless man. So you have to use all 3. It's what I'm grading you on. It's the same thing every 7th grader is doing. So you have to use the information in all 3 articles, and you're connecting this to your life also. So you are going to be doing all 3 of them, connecting them to your life, connecting them to one article, connecting them to other article. That is what the essay is. It's not hard tomorrow. It just requires you to have read them ahead of time, because then you should understand it and you can submit it. Just trying to help. Caleb.
Do you think I'll have enough time to read 1 article and do the essay tomorrow? I've already read 2.
Well, I guess we'll find out. I'm not the one failing. It does go in as a double grade because it is our biggest grade that we're going to have. So it goes in as, I think, either like a 70 or 80 point grade. So this is enough for those of you who are wanting to bump your grade up. Absolutely can help bump your grade up. Or the other direction, but we won't talk about that because your grade's going to go up because you're going to do good things.
No.
Hi. Right. Moving on. So, tried to call on you. So then, as we get into our stuff for today, I believe we had gotten through Hephaestus and was just starting Aries. So we can do a little bit of a rewindy thing from there to help you out. You want to try again? Hi.
Yeah. So is the essay gonna be 3 paragraphs long? Like 1 paragraph?
5! I can barely write that in 4 days.
If it helps, if you let me know now, I can go ahead and remove you from Advanced English, and then you don't have to worry about it, and you can write the shorter one. You
Wait,
just
how
have
much do they have to do?
1 paragraph less.
That's not
That's not even
I know. Or you can complain enough, and we can just take you out of 7th grade and move you back to 6th grade.
No, thank
How much do
you.
we have to do
Yes,
then?
I love my 6th grade.
So, looking at your thing, well, we're not looking at it. Let's see what things you remember from there. Who is our top god?
Me.
What do we say for Zeus? And then our little hand sign to go along with.
You throw thunderbolt at Henry.
She is spiting me.
And that's where your point and hold the lightning bolt's going to come in. You can't control his lightning bolts. That's his choice of lightning.
Can I smite
And then,
Elena?
sure. I said, ooh, smiting is going to happen. And after Zeus, our next one to get thrown is
His Hades.
To get
Hera. What do we say for Hera? And her hand sign thingy. Spark. Or you have your yarn or your yarn or whichever yarn. That's not a moose. That's and then after Hera is going to be and for Poseidon, we say
King of the Seas.
and this is where you can do the fishy bits. I did have kids asking if they can do a trident, and if you want to, that's fine. I asked them, how are you doing a trident? And they went, and so that's weird, but fine. Just make sure that you do a trident and not a spear. You have all three of them up and not one of them up, because that might be a different issue. But if you can do your trident from there, I am fine with that one. Our next one to get a throne and get a throne is
Hades.
I almost said keep a throne, but he does not keep a throne. Why does he give up his throne?
He hates everyone.
So you don't have, like, I had kids asking if we have to know Hades when we stand up, and the answer is no. I mean, if you want to go Hades, I mean, you can, but it's just more for the quiz and tests and stuff like that. Know that Hades had a throne and then gave it up. But if you want to do the invisible thing, like a kid holding up their hand for 20 minutes, you're more than welcome to. Our next one to get a throne and keep it is Demeter. And for Demeter we say,
God of the grains and the wheat.
and the grains and harvests. And then for her hand sign is, are you mowing?
Touch grass.
By the way, there is a difference between lawnmower and I'm riding a Harley. Because I've had a number of kids who are like, Demeter! And I'm like, that's not quite the same thing. It's more of the frumity. And then hopefully that helps you. Our next one to get a throne is
Me.
is correct. Hestia, our nice one. But what's our problem with Hestia? So, did I explain these pictures to you guys yesterday? So, the fact that there's, how many kids were swallowed? 6. Who's the first one to give up a throne? Which is why he's all the way over here to the left, because that's the first one to give up a throne. Who is the other one to give up a throne? That's why I put her at the other side. So, and who is it that swallowed all of them? Which is why I put Cronus right next to them. So my thought was, if you're trying to remember which kids get swallowed, you have Cronus here, and then you have the 6 kids going across. First one to give up a throne, last one to give up a throne. And then the 2 that get married would be, and that's why you have the Zeus and Hera. Home kids, you can't see it, but I'm pointing to posters over there. Just use imagination. Like Elena's imaginating, I'm calling on her. And so hopefully that would help you as far as that bit goes. So Hestia is gone, which is our little, ooh, what was she the god of?
Fireplace.
She's the god of fireplaces.
Arson.
After Hestia, our next one to get a throne is? Good job not saying hepatitis. And his brother is correct. That's where Ares, and we're going to talk about him in just a moment. With Hephaestus, what is he the god of? Metal or blacksmith, they're kind of the same thing overall. Does actually mean that you come from a family of smiths. With Hephaestus, I did give you both versions of why he gets thrown off the mountain. Why does dad throw him off? Why does mom throw him off? Because he's ugly and she boots him. And then he lands on islands. And then what happens to leg? And then face, lands on face and goes slidey slide. And accordion. Mountain. Thunder. Who does he think is at the top? And gets to the top. Is Zeus at the top? Where's thunder coming from?
Inside.
Who's inside?
Me.
And this is where he learns his special abilities, and then that's when Zeus brings him back up. And at this point, Zeus finally goes, Elaine, did you have a question? What's up?
So brave up Poseidon thing. If I do this, can I throw it at somebody?
Specifically him? Sure, that's fine. Just make sure it doesn't leave your hand. Definitely do not regret not calling on you. And so now we have Hephaestus on there. And did I start talking about Ares?
No.
So, with Ares, he is our other one that's going to get the throne. Our other child that's going to step in. Ares is a spoiled rich kid. He is one of the Zeus's only, well actually Hera's one of only kids to get a throne. And he is really good looking according to Greek mythology. Although if you look at a poster of him, yeah, it doesn't look, but according to Greek mythology, he was one of the top 5 hottie gods.
Here's a list. There's like a tier.
Yeah. People magazine comes out with them every year about the top hottest guy. I don't know, just like Apollo is usually the top one, and then there's other ones that step in. With him, we all have already talked. What is he the god of? Who is the other god of war? So, to relate this to sports to help you out, if you had a basketball game and you were wanting to come up with a play to beat the other team, and you're going to try to get it to your sharpshooter who is then going to hit the 3 and drain it, you're going to pray to Athena because you're using strategy. If instead you go and put $100 in the referee's pocket before the game, have him turn and look the other way while you run up and you take a baseball bat to their 3-point shooter's kneecap and he falls down and the ref goes, didn't see it, and now of course they're gone. Now you're praying to Ares. So it all depends on how you want to go about being a winner in your war. Strategy, not strategy. Lucas.
Can I go to the bathroom?
Yeah, go for it. And so with that one, and then, I can also point to Ares over there on that one too. With Ares, he is this one here at the end, probably still does not look like a hottie. Then again, if you thought poster drawings of gods were hotties, you'd probably have an issue. He's also the one back over here, and we're going to talk about why he's in that spot. There are multiple stories of Ares going down to Earth, taking human form, getting into fights with humans, getting his butt kicked by humans, going back up to Mount Olympus, crying to the other gods, getting made fun of by the other gods, and then going off and hiding. Almost nobody likes Ares. Even humans didn't like Ares. Gods didn't like Ares. The only one who liked him was his girlfriend. And that's only because she was cheating on her husband. But we'll talk about that here in a moment too. I know. Shocker, I'm sure. And so with Ares, to help you remember that he is a wussy god of war, I'm going to introduce to you what's called the wuss fighter stance. Because I don't want you taking a good fighting stance, because that's not how Ares fights. That is how Athena would fight. Ares is more about wuss fightery. So this takes you back to when I was in junior high, when I learned how to fight. And so with this, when we had to fight off the dinosaurs that would come into the school on haters, when I was a young kid, I would get bullied on a regular basis, and I had to learn to defend myself. It's why I went off and became a wrestler and became eventually a wrestling coach and a football player for a very short period of time. I was trying to toughen myself up from my wussy days. And when I would get picked on, here's how I would learn to fight. And so you're going to emulate my fighting style from my childhood. 1, you want to make sure you protect the neck because it's squishy, and I was always afraid of a good neck punch coming in and taking me out. So figure out which is your dominant punching arm, and you're going to take that one, and it goes across this neck area, so it is harder for someone to get in there to attack you. Then I was watching football games at the time, and I realized that to protect the face, they had face masks on, and I thought that was genius because I wanted to protect my face and my brain because I was a smart kid, and I didn't want my brain to get hurt. So you go across and protect neck, and then you bring your other hand up, and it's going to protect your face like a helmet. This leaves your hand free for swinging, and so this way you can come at someone to try and attack them. So that is going to be the stance you're going to do. Across neck, protect face, swing arm, come at person.
What is that?
If you don't think this works, I will tell you now. Anytime that someone is bullying you and ready to fight, and you go, fine, you and me. And then when they fall down laughing, it buys you a lot of time to run. And when you're going down the hallway going, thank you, Mr. Broviak, when they get back up and go, come here, where'd they go? And you're down the hallway laughing. You're going to be like, that was genius. So again, there you go. That is going to be for Aries, God of War. I figure that is about as insulting to him as we can get, and he deserves every insult we can give him. Hi, Evan.
Did it ever work?
For Aries, no.
For you.
I never once...
Not work.
Wow, you're not doing it right. Yes, it worked all the time. I never once got hit when I used it.
I wonder why.
Oh, I forgot. Those are the two sons. There are two daughters that Zeus and Hera have. Hebe and Olympian. And one of them has a sad story, and the other one has a sadder story. One, remember, hashtag sexism. Very much plays a role here on this one. Zeus goes Aries. You obviously get thrown because you're my good-looking kid. Hephaestus, I kicked you off the mountain. And then he looks at his daughters and goes, daughters. And one of them, Olympian, he just gets rid of. Like, she is the black sheep. Like, it is even hard to find stories about her. And people are like, do you have a daughter? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, who? And he's like, Hebe. Like, don't you have a second daughter? And he's like, nah. And so Olympian just does not exist as far as Zeus is concerned. The other daughter, Hebe, she has also a sad story. As she grows up, she gets to run around on Mount Olympus, and eventually she asks her dad for a throne. And she's like, Dad, my brother has a throne. Can I have a throne also? And he goes, dear, I have something better than a throne for you. She goes, better than a throne? He goes, yes. I have a job for you. She goes, a job? He goes, yes. He goes, sometimes the gods on Mount Olympus are going to get hungry and thirsty. And we need someone to bring us stuff whenever we get hungry and thirsty. So whenever you see a god in a throne, go, food, your job is to bring them food and drink so that way they don't get tired. He makes Hebe the maid of Mount Olympus, and that becomes her job. She gets to hang around all the other gods, but he never gives her a throne. Why? Hashtag, unfortunately, yeah. She does eventually get to marry a rich guy, which is kind of good, but she keeps being the maid of Mount Olympus. At this point, my advanced kids, how many thrones are filled in on Mount Olympus? Hang on, let's back. How many thrones have people sitting on them on Mount Olympus?
7.
Why'd you say 7?
Because Hestia is so
Hestia still has a throne. Good job, one advanced kid. And so we now have those 6 plus Hestia sitting up there. And Zeus realized, then how many thrones still need to be filled in?
5.
Good job, one advanced kid. So at this point, he still has 5 thrones to fill in. But he's tired of having kids with his wife, but not tired of having kids. So he decides all the rest of the thrones are going to be filled in with kids of his, but not Hera's.
Yeah.
So this is going to bring in the twins, known as Artemis and Apollo. And we're going to get to their story. So with Artemis and Apollo, they are going to be the ones that are over here behind Caleb. Again, home children, you're out of luck. Artemis, the one over here. Apollo, the one over here. And then in the one back over here, Artemis on this side, Apollo on that side. And then behind Billy, we have Artemis on this side, Apollo on this side. Looking at the posters, you may figure out why they are considered twins. Sorry, pick up. Because of what they represent. Because they represent the sun and the moon, they were thought to be twin gods. Henry?
So, I know which gods get thrown in what order too.
Good job. So at this point, we're going to introduce a god by the name of Leto. L-E-T-O. Leto was a Titan girl who was not one of the major gods. She was one of the many thousands that are running around down on Earth. And Zeus takes a liking to her. And he thinks that she's quite the hottie. So one day, he goes down and confronts her. He's like, hey, you're hot. I'm the king of all the gods. We should get together. And she goes, no, you're married, and I'm not an idiot. So that's not going to happen. You can get to stepping. Zeus is very respectful of women, and he goes, I understand completely. I won't bother you. Just kidding. It's Zeus. He goes and hides behind a tree and creepily watches her for the next several days, waiting for his chance to attack. Make a friend. And so as he watches her over the next couple days, hiding behind a tree, he notices that she goes down to this pond on a regular basis, and there's a bunch of swans that swim around out there. And every day she would come down with like some bread and throw it out there and feed the swans, and she would talk to the swans, and she really seemed to like these swans. That gives him an idea. So he leaves, and the next day when she comes down to play with the swans, there's a really big swan that just happens to be swimming around in this pond. And she's like, "Oh, you're a new swan." And the swan goes, "Swan?" And she's like, "You're a really big swan." He goes, "Swan." He goes around knocking the other swans out of the way. She's like, "You're an aggressive swan." He's like, "Swan." To the point where he's the only swan she gets to interact with. Sorry, I'm getting choked up just thinking about it. I gotta get water. Quick timeout. My throat was dry.
You did.
I don't have emotions in case you were worried for a second.
Can I tell him a joke?
I'm back.
Wait,
It's still
So, at this point, she starts playing around with the swan, giving him bread. He gets to the point where she will even like go onto his back and she can like surf across the pond on him. And she's like, "Swan, you're the bestest." And he's like, "Swan." Until eventually she goes and talks to Swan. And she goes, "Swan, out of all the ones I've ever met out here, you are the best swan. You know what, Swan? I think I love you." And the swan goes, "Swan?" And all of a sudden, the swan turns back into Zeus. And she goes, "What? You were Zeus the whole time?" And he goes, "Swan? Yes, I was." And she goes, "Oh, well, we might as well be friendly." So friendliness happens. And even though she said she would never fall for him, she fell for the swan and then fell for Zeus. And everything goes great. Till one day, she's pregnant. And once that happens, now we have issues because Hera finds out about this. And Hera is not happy. And she comes down to confront Leto. And she goes, "Hey, rumor is you've been with my man. And I do not like you being with my man." And Leto goes, "It's not my fault. He was a swan." And Hera goes, "No, that makes it weird." She goes, "No matter what excuse you come up with, it is time for you to be punished for being with my man because girls need to learn a lesson." And Leto goes, "Okay, well, it's already happened. I'm a god. What are you going to do about it?" She goes, "Well, here's what I'm going to do. I am going to curse you. As long as your feet are touching my husband's kingdom, you can't stop running." And Leto goes, "Okay, I'm touching his kingdom right now. I'm not running. Your curse isn't working." Hera goes, "I'm not done." And out of the ground rises this gigantic snake called Python, the biggest snake that's ever existed. And it shoots up out of the ground and goes, "Hiss!" And she freaks out. And Hera goes, "If this snake catches you, it is going to eat you, and you are going to spend the rest of eternity inside of its stomach. Snake, get her." And she takes off running and screaming, and she's like, "Ah, giant python snake!" And she runs. Being a god, she doesn't stop running for days, weeks, months. Remember the part where she was pregnant? Turns out she doesn't have time to stop to give birth. And she just gets pregnanter and pregnanter and pregnanter as the months turn into years and the years turn into decades. And it gets to the point where her big tum-tum is going from side to side as she's running, and she has to keep pushing her tummy to the side. And the python keeps on chasing after her. And she starts running by Mount Olympus and shaking her fist up there going, "Zeus, this is all your fault. I hate you." And he's like, "Don't blame me. I was a swan." She goes, "Yes, it was absolutely your fault." So eventually, Zeus finally begins to feel these things called emotions. And he feels a little bit bad and goes, "Fine, if you stop running past Mount Olympus and yelling at me, I'll help you out." So he comes up with a plan. He goes, "Here's what I'm going to do to help you out. Everyone knows islands are just giant floating land bobbers attached to the ground via a land string. If not, the island would float away. Common knowledge." So he goes, "Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to have you jump from this cliff onto an island. Once you land on the island, I will have my brother break the land string. Once this land string is broken, then this is no longer considered part of my kingdom, and the curse will be broken. She goes, "You think that'll work?" And he goes, "I don't know. Sounds like a you issue. Let's find out." So he tells her the plan. Well, actually, he tells it to Hermes. Hermes goes down and tells her the plan. It wasn't easy, but I did some Googling, and I found a picture of running pregnant woman. Be surprised how few pictures there are of pregnant women running. So I was pretty happy with myself. Also found a picture of running snake. So Snake chases her all the way to the edge of this cliff, and then she jumps onto the cliff. The python, which is running along right behind her, gets ready to jump onto the cliff, but before it can make the jump, Poseidon comes up and breaks the little land string. Boink! As soon as that happens, the curse ends, and the snake loses her and can't figure out where she went and just stops on the edge of the cliff. Well, as soon as she stops running, she goes, and gives birth to 2 full-grown children that pop out of her. Ploppy, ploppy, and these 2 kids pop out of her by the name of Artemis and Apollo. Artemis and Apollo are not happy. They just spent their entire childhood and young adult lives inside their mom's tummy riding the worst roller coaster ever. And so they decide the first thing they're going to do is kill that stupid snake. So they decide they're going to kill it. But the snake's over here, and they're over here. So they invent these things called bow and arrows. Now, you might be wondering, where did they get the sticks? Those came from the trees. If you want to know where they got the strings for the bow and arrow, they were born with them. And so they pulled off their own umbilical cords, wrapped them around sticks to make their own bow and arrows. Then they turn around and shoot Python, killing it dead.
How'd they get the arrows?
Other sticks, obviously.
How'd the snakes carry python?
Obviously by poking into it. Don't make me explain Python death. So at this point, Hera ends up actually feeling bad too, because these kids spent their entire childhood inside of the mom's belly. And she connects to that. And she's like, I understand what that's like. Why would she understand? She grew up inside of Cronus. And she goes, you know what? You should not be punished for what your mom did. So I forgive the 2 of you. I don't like your mom. She can still die in a hole. But you 2, I like you. Not your fault. And so Hera invites the 2 of them up to Mount Olympus to become the next 2 gods. Because they use the bow and arrows to kill the snake, if you look in their pictures, you will often see the bow and arrow in the picture there. Same thing here, bow and arrow with him, bow and arrow with her. Same thing in those. She, the girl, Artemis, becomes the god of the moon and the god of hunting. Apollo is the god of the sun, and he doesn't do a whole lot with his bow and arrow. He becomes the god of like sport shooting, like you throw like a penny into the air and someone like can shoot it out of it. And so that's more his areas, like showing off with a bow and arrow, where she does more of the hunting area and stuff along those lines. So with Artemis, we're going to say she is the god of 2 main areas, which would be, there you go. She is also the god of other things like unmarried women. She refuses to ever date men because of what happened to her mom. She declares that she will forever be a single lady because of what happened to her mom. She will never get married. With the hand sign that's going to go for her, I thought about trying to do the moon, but I thought that'd be weird. And then there was this movie that came out with this one girl who goes around shooting people with an arrow. And I was, yeah. And so I figured we could channel our inner Katniss for those of you who've seen your Hunger Games. And so you're going to grab your bow and then grab your little intestines, your umbilical cord, and go, whee! So you're going to have Artemis, god of moon and hunting. And then Tuesday of next week, we're going to talk about Apollo, because there's a bit more that goes into him. Hi, Henry, do you have a question?